My name is Kathleen Erica Eberhardt, aka Madam Mattia. Welcome to Creating Meaning, Culture, and Identity with the Power of Symbolism and Leadership, Bridging Vision and Values with the People of the Central Bank of Libya. There are 4 sections in the contents: Introduction, Scholarly Analysis, Common Themes and Differences, and Symbolic Leadership Insights. And the first section is Introduction. Within this, we have the symbolic frame overview, the role, symbols, and the rituals and traditions. This slide introduces the symbolic frame, which highlights how leaders create meaning within organizations. They act as meaning makers, using symbols and culture to inspire their teams. The focus is on how leaders shape a shared sense of purpose and identity through vision and values. Symbols carry powerful meanings that anchor identity and culture within an organization. Leaders use symbols to reinforce the culture and create a sense of community. Symbols are key in unifying the team and reminding everyone of their shared values and goals. Rituals and traditions play a critical role in reinforcing the values of an organization. These shared experiences help build emotional connections between team members and contribute to a strong organizational identity, fostering a sense of unity and belonging. Now we get into scholarly analysis. Within here are 5 articles. The captions for the sections describing these articles include symbolic leadership highlights, symbolic leadership in organizations, symbolic leadership in academic institutions, symbolic leadership in the Libyan Uprising, and symbolic leadership in the Libyan oil and gas industry. The first one is titled Symbolic Leadership Highlights. It includes the role of symbols and meaning, the use of rituals and ceremonies, inspiration through storytelling, and management of meaning. Role of symbols and meaning. Symbolic leadership is deeply connected to the use of symbols and metaphors to communicate values and vision. These symbols, whether logos or metaphors, help define roles, power, and status within the organization. They enable leaders to manage meaning effectively and influence followers. For example, symbols communicate the culture through unspoken messages and consist of company logos, company colors, and even mental images held by employees. The use of rituals and ceremonies. Rituals in symbolic leadership create a sense of belonging and unity within the organization. They mark significant events and transitions, serving to reinforce shared values and organizational culture. For example, organizational leaders should provide rewards and promotions for followers in order to motivate them to work hard to achieve organizational goals. The next one is inspiration through storytelling. Storytelling is a powerful tool in symbolic leadership. It not only motivates followers, but also fosters learning and the transmission of values. Leaders use stories to clarify their vision and influence organizational members. Leaders can and should be narrators who use stories for sense-making and sense-giving to facilitate organizational adaptations. That's Fleming 2001 as cited in Muldoon 2004, page 20. And the final section is management of meaning. Leaders manage meaning by interpreting workplace events and providing explanations that align with organizational values. This involves framing experiences in ways that resonate with followers. For example, it is the task of management to provide explanations, rationalizations, and legitimization for activities undertaken in the organization. Okay, that was the first topic. The next topic, the second topic, is symbolic leadership in organizations. It includes 5 sections: definition of symbolic leadership, roles of symbols and metaphors, influence on organizational culture, inspiration through storytelling, and rituals and ceremony as unifying practices. The definition of symbolic leadership. Symbolic leadership focuses on using vision, culture, and values to inspire followers. It involves using symbols, stories, and rituals to create a shared sense of meaning within an organization. Example: symbolic leaders use rituals, ceremonies, stories, and symbols to create and reinforce corporate culture. They inspire followers to higher levels of performance and commitment. And this author is Abdurrahman, 2019, page 68. Number 2, role of symbols and metaphors. Leaders utilize symbols and metaphors to communicate complex ideas, make them reliable to their followers, thus framing organizational experiences in a meaningful way. Number 3, influence on organizational culture. Symbolic leadership shapes organizational culture by embedding shared values and beliefs, creating a cohesive environment where members are aligned toward common goals. Number 4, inspiration through storytelling. Storytelling is a powerful tool for symbolic leaders. It conveys the organization's history, values, and vision, inspiring followers to embrace the culture and mission. And number 5, rituals and ceremony as unifying practices. Organizational rituals and ceremonies play a significant role in reinforcing unity and shared values. They provide structure and meaning to key events, fostering a sense of belonging among employees. Okay, the next slide is symbolic leadership in academic institutions. It has 5 sections as well. Understanding symbolic leadership, building a culture of shared meaning, the use of stories and rituals, inspiration through symbolism, and leadership in the symbolic frame. Number 1, understanding symbolic leadership. In the symbolic frame, leaders perceive organizations as cultural symbols. Their role is to facilitate the development of shared meanings through symbols, stories, and rituals. A leader with a symbolic frame perceives the organization as a cultural system of shared meanings, trying to direct proceedings on a path that leads to the organizational vision. And that's Fiore, 2018, page 169. Number 2, building a culture of shared meaning. Leaders in academic institutions use symbols and metaphors to create a sense of belonging and purpose, aligning the institution's goals with shared values. Number 3, the use of stories and rituals. Storytelling and rituals are vital tools in symbolic leadership. They help reinforce the organization's culture and inspire members by connecting them to the institution's history and mission. Are you starting to see patterns repeating in each one of these articles as we're going? Yeah. Inspiration through symbolism is number 4. Symbolic leaders use ceremonies and artifacts to evoke emotional responses and foster a collective vision, helping individuals feel connected to the broader organizational mission. Number 5, leadership in symbolic frames. Symbolic leadership is particularly effective in higher education settings where leaders must inspire commitment and alignment with the institution's vision through shared meaning and cultural practices. And the next slide is symbolic leadership in regime survival. Now we start talking about Libya specifically, and this has 5 sections. Leveraging nationalism, emotional territoriality, heroic sacrifice, framing external threats, and unity through symbolism. This speaks most specifically to Libya under Gaddafi and how he ruled things. Follow me? Leveraging nationalism is the first section. Leaders like Mubarak and Gaddafi reinforced their leadership by appealing to nationalist symbols, often reinforcing their roles as defender of the nation's sovereignty. And number 2, emotional territoriality. The leaders in emotions such as fear and sacrifice to align themselves with, they use these emotions to align themselves with national identity and territorial protection. For example, Gaddafi framed the Uprising as a foreign attempt to recolonialize Libya, invoking the nation's past struggles for independence. The example from the document is Gaddafi blamed protesters for attacking, quote, a liberator, a fighter against Italian occupiers, and for attempting to bring colonialism back to us. And that's Gaddafi 2011 as cited in Menshawi 2021, page 2809. Now, we're not going to go into whether or not these are right or wrong. It's just an example of how symbols are used in situations. Right? Mm-hmm. Number 3, heroic sacrifice. Their narrative of personal sacrifice was central to the leaders' symbolic leadership, portraying themselves as martyrs ready to die for their country's sovereignty. Number 4, framing external threats. Leaders amplified the idea of external enemies, such as colonial powers, to unify the populace against perceived foreign interference. And number 5, unity through symbolism. And unity is also, you notice, a common theme, using symbols to build unity, storytelling to build unity. By emphasizing collective sacrifice and territorial integrity, the leaders aim to create a sense of national unity that reinforced their leadership during the uprisings. Okay, that was a little longer, but I stopped to explain some things. which was necessary given the content, I believe. And this next slide is Symbolic Leadership in the Libyan Uprising. It has 5 sections as well. Subversion to the Jamahiriya's symbolic order, redefinition of Libyan national identity, alternative symbolic practices, collective action and cultural production, empowerment through representation. And this period is after Gaddafi, as we transition from under Gaddafi. And the first topic is subversion of the Jamahiriya's symbolic order. The symbolic order under the Jamahiriya, heavily centered around Gaddafi's persona, was actively contested. Activists undermined his dominance through cultural and symbolic acts such as graffiti and satirical art. And you'll see an example of how we're using that in a minute. Cultural productions were subversive in their contestation of the Jamahiriya's prescriptive ideological and discursive norms. And this is a quote: collective in their grassroots mode of emergence and development, and empowering in their transformation of activists' own understandings of themselves as publicly political personas. That's from Al-Fassi 2017, page 223. Number 2, redefinition of Libyan national identity. The uprising fostered a new sense of Libyan identity, detached from Gaddafi's regime, focusing on civic participation and collective ownership of the political future. Number 3, alternative symbolic practices. Rather than merely subverting the existing symbolic order, revolutionaries began establishing new symbols and practices that represented the aspirations of the Libyan people. And again, we're not going to get into the politics. This is about the procedure. Number 4, collective action and cultural production. Through the creation of revolutionary music, poetry, and art, Libyans contested the regime's symbolic power and projected a new nationalistic vision. And number 5, empowerment through representation. You notice how I'm stumbling when we start talking about politics.
Yeah.
Number 5, empowerment through representation. The act of political expression during the uprising was deeply empowering for participants, as it allowed individuals to reclaim their political agency and identity in public spaces. That's it for the scholarly articles. Now we're going to look at common themes and differences. This section talks about the common themes in symbolic leadership, and in a minute we'll look at the differences. In the first slide, we visit 4 topics: symbol, a tool for influence; rituals and ceremonies for unity, again with unity; storytelling, another recurrent concept used as a leadership tool and managing meaning. Number 1, symbols as tools for influence. Across all cases, symbolic leadership emphasizes the use of symbols, logos, metaphors, visual representations to communicate values and power structures. Leaders manipulate symbols to convey organizational culture and align followers with that mission. Number 2, rituals and ceremonies for unity. Rituals and ceremonies are consistently highlighted as important practices in symbolic leadership. They help foster a sense of belonging, mark transitions, and reinforce organizational values, contributing to cohesion among members. Number 3, storytelling as a leadership tool. Storytelling is a universal theme across the slides, emphasizing its role in inspiring, educating, and unifying followers. Through narratives, leaders clarify their vision, communicate organizational goals, and influence followers' behavior and mindset. Number 4, managing meaning. Symbolic leaders are responsible for managing meaning within the organization by interpreting events, framing them in ways that resonate with followers, and providing explanations that align with shared values. This ensures consistency in organizational culture and strengthens leadership influence. And again with the storytelling. Now, key difference in symbolic leadership approaches. There's 3 topics: focus on culture versus motivation, emphasis on power versus inclusion, and the role of the followers. Now remember, these are differences between different types. of symbolic leadership. Number 1, focus on culture versus motivation. Some slide, which ones, emphasize the cultural aspect of symbolic leadership, where the leader acts as a guardian of organizational values and uses symbols to perpetuate the culture. Other slides, you can look back which ones, focus more on the motivational aspect, where symbolic leadership involves offering rewards and promotions to drive followers towards organizational goals. And I left the explanations about which ones open so that people can go back and revisit the prior discussion. Presentation, rather. It's a discussion here between you and I, but it's a presentation in real life. Number 2, emphasis on power versus inclusion. Certain approaches to symbolic leadership focus more on the use of symbols to establish hierarchy and power structures within the organization. In contrast, other perspectives highlight the inclusive nature of rituals and ceremonies, designed to foster unity and shared ownership among followers. The role of followers is number 3. While most discussions of symbolic leadership emphasize the leader's role in shaping meaning and culture, some approaches place more emphasis on the follower's active participation in constructing and sustaining the leader's symbolic authority. This perspective highlights a more interactive dynamic between leaders and followers, where both contribute to meaning making. Now, think about it for a minute. Which do you believe would be more effective? Do you think the focusing on the leader or focusing on the followers and their relationship to the leader? Probably the followers. These synthesized insights show that symbolic leadership is multifaceted, with common themes of symbols, rituals, and storytelling, yet differing in focus between culture, motivation, power, and again the role of followers. It's an important differentiation. We're on slide number 17, Discovering CBL Symbolism. And in this section, we're going to look at 4 topics: leverage symbols and rituals to foster unity. Number 2, align vision and culture with national goals. Number 3, encourage emotional connections through storytelling and metaphors. And number 4, incorporate civic participation in new symbols. Here are 4 recommendations for discovering CBL symbolism in the Central Bank of Libya. Focusing on building a shared sense of purpose, unity, and identity while aligning with nationalistic aspirations. Number 1, leverage symbols and rituals to foster unity. Use national symbols, such as a Libyan flag or images representing the country's cultural heritage, in the bank's communication and office spaces to evoke a sense of national pride. Organizational rituals or ceremonies, such as celebrating key milestones or new initiatives, can help reinforce shared values and purpose. This symbolic leadership can inspire greater commitment to the bank's mission and create a cohesive environment where employees feel a strong connection to both the institution and the country's future. Here is an image representing Libya's cultural heritage, combining key elements like traditional architecture, Berber patterns, desert landscapes, and the Libyan flag, reflecting the nation's pride and cultural legacy. Number 2, align vision and culture with national goals. Integrate the bank's organizational vision with Libya's broader economic and political goals, emphasizing civic participation and the collective ownership of the nation's future. This could be reflected in strategic goals that prioritize the rebuilding of Libya's economy, communicated through regular storytelling that connects employees' work with the broader nationalistic vision. This alignment fosters a shared identity and emotional connection to the institution's goals, reinforcing the organization's culture. Our example is from Sahara sands to Mediterranean waves. Every coin at the Central Bank carries Libya's vast heritage. Berber Amiza, which are actually the same, Arab Amiza, and Tariq. Together we fuel a future of unity, culture, and shared prosperity for all. Number 3, encourage emotional connections through storytelling and metaphors. Use storytelling as a tool to convey the organization's history, values, and vision, helping employees understand their role within the broader economic revitalization of Libya. Create narratives that highlight the contributions of the bank to the well-being of Libyan citizens and utilize metaphors to communicate complex ideas, such as the resilience in the face of adversity, thereby fostering a sense of belonging and emotional connection to the work being done. Now we have a story. The central bank is Libya's backbone, turning challenges into strength. With every dinar we circulate, we restore hope, rebuild communities, and build shape a future where every Libyan thrives. Our work is the foundation of the nation's revival. Now, I don't know if it's dinar or dinar. We're going to find out when we listen to the Arabic translation in a minute. Number 4, incorporate civic participation and new symbols. Encourage civic participation by hosting public forums or symbolic acts, such as commissioning satirical art or murals that reflect the aspirations of the Libyan people to reclaim political agency in public spaces. These efforts can project a new nationalistic vision and give citizens a sense of ownership in the central bank's mission, aligning it with the country's economic recovery and political future. And you see here we have an example of a mural that includes the coins coming out of the top of the Bank of Libya while it's under construction. Very colorful, vivid representation.
Like the one that you showed me?
Like the one that I showed you. Correct. We made that together as a team.
Mm-hmm.
The manifestation of everything we've been studying is vividly illustrated in the following 2 examples that we call CBO growth and CBO culture. CBO growth. The central bank is Libya's backbone, turning challenges into strength. With every dinar we circulate, we restore hope, rebuild communities, and build shape a future where every Libyan thrives. Our work is the foundation of the nation's survival. From Sahara sands to Mediterranean waves, every coin at the central bank carries Libya's vast heritage, Arabic, Amisa, and Tuareg. Together we fuel a future of unity, culture, and shared prosperity for all.
البنك المركزي هو العمود الفقري لليبيا، حيث يحول التحديات إلى قوة. مع كل دينار نوسعه نستعيد الأمل ونعيد بناء المجتمعات ونبني مستقبلا يزدهر فيه كل ليبي. عملنا هو أساس نهضة الأمة. من رمال الصحراء الكبرى إلى أمواج البحر الأبيض المتوسط، تحمل كل عملة في البنك المركزي تراث ليبيا الواسع العربي والأمازيغي والطوارقي. معا نغذي مستقبلا من الوحدة والثقافة والازدهار المشترك للجميع.